start with Sara and Usman. What about the film really caught your interest to want to be a part of it?
I was like, I keep saying this was like, it's definitely like the title at first is like Grimcutty. I'm like, oh, okay. I think that first piqued my interest, and I first read the sides because I was only given the sides for the audition. And I think just like Asha as a character, she was just so relatable, and she was like kind of awkward, kind of like wanting to be like different than how she is. And the whole horror aspect of the internet influencing like this whole like, mass hysteria thing was really interesting and appealing to me.
Yeah, for me, I think, I had some conversations with John, and I liked the ideas that he had about this creature and about what the story he wanted to tell. And I liked that there was an opportunity to sort of blend the supernatural stuff with real, honest, real human beings who are kind of going through something as a family. And I particularly really was drawn to the opportunity to do so as a person of color, playing this kind of a role in a horror movie. I don't think this sort of representation is readily available in the world of horror. A mixed race family that's just kind of going through it as an American family. So the opportunity to do that was really great, and I was very pleased that Hulu and 20th Digital and John were really on board for that.
So going off that question, actually, that was going to be another question for John. Was that always the intention when putting this film together, was to create this really great space of representation outside of white for your cast?
Oh yeah, diversity was really important, and we were just very open going into the casting process, and I think I think Usman just had this likability, this quality that I was looking for in the dad. And so I was really excited when we got him on board. And in representation was really important to me. Like Usman was saying, American families are very different now. And I wanted to everything like Usman was saying, I wanted to take this mixed race family, but have it be a family that all Americans could kind of connect with.
I certainly could relate to much of the family from my own experiences. So it works great. So for as far as Grimcutty goes, though, I am curious. We've seen so many of these kinds of urban legends and figures throughout the years. What was it like developing the design of Grimcutty?
Well, it was kind of based on an idea that I had in my head that I did a sketch of, and I had always had this idea of like a pale white face like sticking out of this black cowl, and how I could like kind of play around with darkness and have it, this face, kind of ghostly face floating around in the darkness, and have it jump out at you. And so I drew it, and then when the movie was greenlit, we kind of did some more work on the design, definitely trying to have it be kind of in the vein of like Momo and some of those creepy pastas, where it has this kind of uncanny valley kind of feel to it. So a lot of the design work was just kind of taking the creatures, like, creature-like features, and just making it more and more human until we found that sweet spot where it's kind of like, what is that thing? So I think the face especially turned out really well. And I feel like kind of has that same kind of uncanny valley vibe as some of those internet urban legends that we're referencing.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's going to sit with me for a while. Sara and Usman, what was your first reactions like when you saw Grimcutty, the suit and everything in person?
Ooh, in person. Because I remember John, like I was always like thinking, like, what's he gonna look like? And then John sent me film. I'm like, oh wow. When I first saw it in person, I was just like, I don't know. He was just this Joel who played the Grimcutty, like in the costume. He was like just large and walking around set. I think I was just like taken aback, and like it's one of those things on set where you just like stare and you're like, oh, that's him. We're just gonna ignore him and move on. But it was really cool to see it for the first time.
I had the same sort of response to this. There's just the size of it. I'm 6'3", and when I'm on a set, I typically don't have to look up at people or things, but I did, because Joel, I think, is like 6'4", 6'5". Then on top of it, he's wearing this Grimcutty suit, which makes him even larger. But I have to also say that while I thought it was a scary sight, because the first time I saw it was on set. It was in a dark room and it was just kind of in the corner. And I walked on set and my friend was like, oh my, I had this reaction to it. But it was also, I was talking to Shannon about it and we were both like, it's kind of beautiful as well in some ways. And maybe that's just our response to like the artistry that it took to sort of make something like that, because I got to be honest, I was expecting it to be that we'd be working with this like VisFX kind of thing and being like, okay, the X is where the monster is, now act off of that. So it was kind of like a really fun, unique experience to be able to actually have it there with you. In all of its size and kind of glory,
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with practical effects, especially nowadays. So I know I can't wait to see the rest of the film and see how it all turns out for everybody, and hopefully not scare me too much with Grimcutty. But thank you all so much for taking the time to chat. I greatly appreciate it. I already know I'm going to spread the word about this one because I'm sure people are going to love it.